Okay.
I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Landmarks Commission, December 20th at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Whit Wardell,
Yes.
Jim Wilcox,
Here.
Roger White,
Here.
Rich Dobbs here, Dave Craycraft.
Yes. Could someone make a motion to excuse,
I'll make a motion, we excuse Dr. Scott Kelly and Pete Lynch from tonight's meeting.
A second.
Roll call, Dave Craycraft,
yes.
Rich Dobbs, yes, Roger White,
Yes.
Jim Wilcox,
Yes.
Whit Wardell.
Yes.
Could I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November the 28th? And I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 28th.
I'll second. Dave Craycraft,
Yes.
Rich Dobbs, yes, Roger White,
Yes.
Jim Wilcox,
Yes.
Whit Wardell.
Yes.
Okay, why don't we proceed with the first application?
Seeing as the first application's out here this evening, is it okay with the commission we skip to the first pending application, CA 22-042?
Be fine.
Skip ahead here. So for pending applications, first we have CA 22-042. Address is 79 North Trine Street. The request this evening is for some modifications that were made to the front porch. Up on the screen is a photograph of the front porch, photo that I have from 2019. You can see that the photograph on the right there is a photograph from just a few weeks ago. Staff got a notice from an adjoining property owner that changes were made to the front porch, and they couldn't find a record of the change being approved by the Landmarks Commission. So staff went out, took photographs, and sent the property owner a notice of violation, letting them know they need to go before the Landmarks Commission for the changes that were made. With that notice, staff also saw that they recently purchased the property, and it looks like the changes were made just before the notices went out, letting people know they're in the historic review district. So the timing just didn't work out for this process not going through your guys' approval. Excuse the very blurry photo here, but this is a photograph I have that's about a stamp size from 1987 of this house. This is when the Landmarks Overlay District was being recorded and established for the community. This photograph was taken of the subject property showing the condition of what the porch used to look like. If you kind of squint your eyes here a little bit, you can see that there were two main support columns on the left and the right of the home. The center columns didn't go all the way up. They stopped short and had decorative caps on them. And then there was a full rail wrap on the three sides of the porch. The applicant did provide a watercolor painting or some kind of photograph, I believe is what the house used to look like, for reference. This is an actual photograph I found for you guys for review. I just kind of skipping ahead here to look at the changes the porch has had over time. This is a photograph from 2010. You can see here the side columns are about the same from the late 80s. The center of the porch, however, had two posts that went all the way up to the top. They are just missing the top trim detail. The balusters on the front of the porch were actually turned on a lathe and have kind of like a spindle design, matched a decorative baluster that was at the top of the porch. In 2014, that design, those elements were modified. The City Council approved an appeal for the previous property owner to remove the wooden siding from the house and put vinyl siding on and new vinyl windows. It looks like with that remodel of the project, you can see some of the decorative spindles up at the top were removed when they wrapped this header. And then the porch was modified with square balusters instead of the turned balusters. Looking forward to 2021 from an auditor photograph here, you can see it's primarily the same as 2014. Just some of the maintenance have been neglected. You see some of the balusters were knocked loose from the porch design. Moving forward to just a few weeks ago, the applicant has removed the two center sections with a smaller 4x4 post here in the middle. They wrapped the side support posts here on the sides, and they have an aluminum tubular rail design in between the slats of the front porch. The applicant actually did a really great job kind of highlighting the project they did and took a lot of photographs, which was great for this application, showing the damage and decay on the porch posts that were removed here on the left, the new support that they put in, and then showing, wrapping it out to give you an idea for lumber sizing here, trimming it out, and then did a photograph kind of up close showing what those spindles kind of look like in the context of the existing porch. So if there's any questions for me, I'd be glad to help answer. Applicants here to talk about their project and to answer any questions you have. That's all I have.
Would one of you like to come to the podium and sign in?
Can we get a different pen? This one's not writing.
Yeah, here.
You want this back? Leave it up here.
So it looks like you guys tore out all the decayed, deteriorated wood and just replaced it with pressure treated, or whatever. Is there, and it looks like there's still a brick pier on, is it on each corner or is it
It's on
in the middle too?
It's on each corner on the
Okay.
sides. That was actually hollow on the inside, the brick footings. So the pressure from the outside columns was actually making the wood floor bow in a little bit. So we did have to fill that in with some mortar and bricks, just to kind of redistribute the weight. And the outside columns were only held by a 2x4 on each side, which didn't seem very safe. So we actually put a second one up there before we rewrapped the column.
Did you trim out the outside corners with pressure treated
Yes.
wood?
Yes, we did.
Do you guys have any comments?
Is there a plan to paint the wood, or is it?
So we had planned to stain it
Stain it.
instead.
Okay.
The top beam, which you can see that we exposed from taking off the siding, we had planned to sand that down and also stain that the same color to kind of match everything.
What color would you be staining it?
A medium to darker type of wood stain.
Well, I like the fact that the lattice is gone because that was ill-fitted.
Yeah.
And I like the center, the removal of those columns and making it shorter.
Yeah, we couldn't really, the view from the inside of the porch to the out looks a lot better now that we don't have those two inside columns. They were kind of an eyesore for us.
You know, I agree with you, Roger. The fact that they tore out those big posts in the middle I think it looks nicer with what they have.
And we're not done with it. I noticed from the picture, it does kind of look, it doesn't look finished, and we're not done with it, but we do plan.
Are you going to put anything at the bottom where the lattice, where you removed the lattice? Are you going to put
Yes.
something down there?
Yeah, the skirting around the front and the sides was actually pretty damaged, water damaged and rotting through, so we had planned to remove those and replace them with a newer piece of pressure-treated wood and then do some sort of wrapping underneath, maybe a shiplap or something that would look nice with the house.
I mean,
We
I'd
don't really
say,
like the lattice.
I mean, I don't particularly care for the lattice. You know,
Oh,
I
no,
think,
the old lattice, I don't care for that.
right.
It was not fitted correctly, if anything.
It was
but-
kind of all falling off anyway.
But I think we try to get away from that store purchased lattice that's, that you can buy in the 4x8 sheets. And if we could get something else in there, that'd be great.
I think in the past, we've talked about, we've approved vertical slats.
I'm not really sure what that looks like.
Well, it's just like 1x3. It could be 1x3 pressure treated, maybe spaced
Okay,
an inch or so.
just like straight
Basically, the
across.
shiplap that you're talking
Yeah.
about, but rotated 90 degrees, so it's running vertically.
Okay,
And I don't think I'd make it solid underneath, because I still think you want some, I mean, you don't want
Air.
critters to get in there, but I think you still wanted air movement
Uh-huh.
under the porch, just to keep it
Right.
dry.
yeah.
The pickets, I know in that neighborhood, I mean, you can see the house, down, which is what, north of you. There's one across the street that have the, I think the square wood
balusters.
or synthetic type pickets versus are these aluminum
They're actually steel,
or steel pickets?
yeah.
I just don't know if it fits with the character of the house
Yeah.
and with the rest of the neighborhood. What do you guys think?
I'm inclined to agree. I mean, the material used doesn't really violate any guidelines or anything, but it doesn't. I think it looks really nice, but I don't know that it fits where it's at. And it's definitely a drastic improvement from where you guys had acquired it, but it's,
I
You
think-
want-
Plan on wrapping the center two posts? I'm just looking at this
Wrapping
very
them.
blurry photo here, how they're about the same width as the end.
yeah.
And then looking at thinking like the weight distribution on the front porch visually. And then looking at those two center posts look really skinny, like they're struggling, I guess, a little bit.
Okay,
Well, you know what, you could keep the posts there and just wrap them with one by pressure treated material, just like you did on the corner post.
I think that may help with the visual interest of the the steel rods as well, kind of maybe balance it.
I think the addition of a collar to that, or something that's, rather than just the raw wood there, might look a lot better.
Yeah.
And help us, that wood, that light brown wood just
Yeah.
stands out.
yeah, it does.
Yeah,
That's
would
why we
there-
were planning on
Would there be any
staying.
interest in doing a stain that's more of a white or match the house color?
Like a whitewash stain. I mean, it's not out of the question. The beam that's up on top is kind of a darker wood. So we had planned to, see, you can kind of see it up in that photo. It's a really nice wood beam behind the layers and layers of paint. So we had planned to, strip the paint off and kind of match that type of wood.
Yeah, we were thinking a similar color to like what these blinds are. Just like something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that would be okay.
What do you guys think of the steel pickets? I mean, you know what? I mean, they don't look
They don't-
awfully bad, but I'd still like to see them blend in more with what the rest of the neighborhood has.
Yes, I agree, but then you have the fact that they purchased the home before the letters were sent out. They've done this, there's quite a bit of expense involved in doing that, and to retrofit it could be quite expensive, I would think.
The reason why we chose that was that it's safer and it's more durable than the wood balusters. The ones that we had taken out were falling out. There were several missing, and it was dangerous for our children. They were also spaced quite wide. So it was definitely a hazard for us, but we definitely wanted to choose something that would last longer and be a little bit more durable. That's why we went with the
Well, David,
steel.
I think with the addition of the bulking up the center post and some type of skirting below, and the changing of the color that is on all that would tend to soften it a lot. Right now, it's just right in your face.
I think painting it white would make it even more in your face too. I tend to lean with darker stain if the metal would remain.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's the pressure-treated wood that's really making it.
It does. Yeah, we never planned to leave it like that, but
Yeah.
But I do agree with David on strengthening or thickening up those center posts in some fashion.
I agree.
What about the height of those?
And that would be another point, just the height of those.
they do come up, pretty high, like this high.
It just looks.
You mean the height of the post?
Oh, the
Just
short post.
Bring it down.
Yeah, break them down.
But you know what, you could bring it down and cap it,
Yeah.
It is capped, it's just not shown
Just
in the
not in this
photos.
photo, but like if you look
so
at,
they are
Yeah,
capped.
And the one picture
They are
is, yeah,
capped.
there is one.
They have LED solar caps on them that kind of light up at night right there.
I think what we're trying to do is just fine tune what you've already done
Yeah.
and make it blend in a lot better
Is
to
this
the
what you mean
neighborhood.
by cap, David, to,
Mm-hmm.
to trim them out and then put like a wider cap that matches kind of what you did up here?
Yeah.
I wish I brought photos, because it is wider than the post, but I don't know if it would be kind of like a forehead type hazard for the kids to run into if it was bigger. I'm guessing if we wrap it, then it will be wider and that will need capped.
I mean, I think it'd look a lot nicer if you just trimmed the 4x4 out.
We
'Cause
can
it
do
would-
that.
I mean.
That's not a big deal we can trim it.
No, I'd just be take down that front railing and cut it down the appropriate amount.
How short would you guys like the post to be?
I mean, I'm thinking,
a couple inches above the rail.
I mean, I'm not sure what the height is above the top of the rail to the top of the
It's
post.
about 5 inches, maybe.
Where they've attached to the house might be a good indicator on the rear photo, the very last photo.
Well, then I think if you take it down to where that post is up against the house,
Yes.
Okay.
cut it off there and then put the cap on it.
Yeah, we can do
I
that.
think that'd look nice.
Yeah. We can do that.
And then with the skirt board, I think, again, the vertical slats, it could be 1x3 or 1x4 pressure treated.
I can send you addresses around town that have it, just to,
Yeah.
you can physically go look at it.
I think I kind of have
The
they're
options.
spaced apart, but they're vertical.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those, I have seen those on a couple houses. It seems like over time they do like warp and bend and move. Is that something that might be concerning? Because
Well,
I
you
don't want
could
it to
do
look bad after a while.
composite.
So the
Couldn't
one,
you?
there's a house on East Waterloo that just did it, and they have a horizontal kind of band that's on the inside of the inside, and then a top horizontal band that basically lock the vertical slats in place.
Okay.
And it's only like that tall, so the area in between the vertical bands is only another like 6-8 inches.
Okay.
And then that mounts directly to the house, and then it allows for that airflow. I'll send you the address to it, that way you
Thank you.
guys can go take a look
Yeah,
at it.
for sure.
But like I said, I'm not opposed to the steel pickets, but I think if we, like you said, Andrew, the choice of color will lessen. In other words, don't make it too contrasting. Just kind of pull everything together with color, leave the pickets black.
Is this something you look to complete in the spring or as soon as possible?
Yeah, at this point, that was
Spring, okay.
As soon as possible. It's
Well,
cold.
you'd have a year, once we give approval, you have a year to complete the
Oh,
project.
yeah, we'll get it done in a year.
I guess I was asking from the standpoint, with all these conditions, is it approvable with these conditions, or do we need to have them back to show the skirting and capping and?
You mean like bring samples of the skirting or
some
what
kind
the
of
plan
mock-up,
is?
or, yeah.
I think it all depends on the comfort of the commission. Visualizing it without seeing, something drawn out, if it makes sense, but, mentally, then you can vote on it that way. Or if it's so many changes, you want them to look at it and reevaluate and bring it back, that's up for the board to discuss.
Well, with the weather, I don't think you're going to be doing this next week. So
No, I don't think
it might be that during the next month that you would get some ideas together and come back to us, and would show us what you're going to do, and then we can give you the stamp of approval. Does that work?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
So would we table
Yeah, you can
this
table it.
application?
If that's how you guys want to
Well-
work with the applicant, that's
Yeah.
fine.
I mean, it sounds like that'd be the best.
Yeah. And that just bring us some ideas, and then we can look at those and give you an idea, say, yes, that's what we like.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. David, I move that we table CA 22042.
I'll second.
Roll call, Whit Wardell,
Yes.
Jamal Cox,
Yes.
Roger White,
Yes.
Rich Dobbs, yes, David Kirkcraft.
Yes.
If either one of you want to call me tomorrow to kind of, I can walk you through next steps, do so. I am going to be out of the office until the 3rd of January after tomorrow, so if you want to wait, you can, but if you want to have a head start, then feel free to just call me anytime.
If you want to be on the agenda for January, they'd have to have it in by
The 9th.
the 9th, an application with some ideas, so.
Could you also bring the stain color, a
Yeah.
stain color that you want?
Yeah, we can pick we haven't
Okay.
picked it yet, but we'll pick one and,
It's like
Okay.
we have a sample here that's going on the mill.
okay.
And so just one sample would be fine, just
Yeah.
to show us what the color's going to be.
Okay. Yeah,
Thanks,
you.
guys.
thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much.
The next application on tonight's agenda is CA 22-043. Address is 10 West Oak Street, and the request this evening is to stain the wood siding on the facility and to install a new standing seam metal roof. Found some fun photographs here for you guys to look at for the mill this evening. It was totally coincidental that after I found them all on my own, the applicant gave them to me on a thumb drive, and it would have been much easier to add them to the presentation. But nonetheless, I did work hard today to find these for you. So up on the photograph is the earliest photograph that we had on record for the mill from 1907. This shows some of the portions of the building that no longer exist. They're kind of projecting off onto the south side of the facility here. When looking at the kind of history of the building, for what I could find, the building was constructed prior to 1875. I do not have an exact date for that, but several additions were added in the 1880s, I'm sure including some of them that you see on the screen here. Skipping forward to 1949 here, you could see another kind of angle of the mill with the train station in front. A couple years ago, you guys reviewed replacements of this window that was up here. This photograph actually shows a boarded up window in that location. There was also one on the north side of the facility here. The information I've seen from prior applications showed that this kind of tower had 4 windows, all kind of mirrored on the same elevation, just for reference. You could also see some of the historic metal roof that was on the building, gutters that were on the building, some of those existing profiles to the siding, kind of how they layered the boards when a board length was kind of exceeded on the facility. And then a photograph kind of after 1940s showing the mill, which I've circled here, And then kind of its adjoining neighbor that no longer exists, kind of across the road tracks there. I'm just showing the scale of the facility. Photograph from 2019 prior to starting the siding project. This photograph here shows kind of what the prior state of the facility was to start some of these renovations taking place. You can see some of the wood here on the front has splintered and fallen off. The paint that was on the facility was starting to flake off. And then looking at this photograph here, you can see the corrugated metal roof that's on the building, kind of taking a look at what that function is. The applicant this evening is again requesting approval to stain the siding, the new siding that's on the building. And then you guys also approved re-siding that facility a couple years ago, and knowing that process would take a couple years to get completed. The sample provided to you guys this evening is the siding color on the new wood that was installed on the front and back of that facility. So you can kind of see what the stain looks like on the material that will be on the building. The applicant has put some renderings together kind of showing what the color combos look like. I think the samples they brought this evening do a much better job on it, kind of illustrating the colors with the kind of tin look to that metal they're looking for the roofing, and then the stain on the poplar material. Here's just a more interesting photographs kind of showing all the different dimensions to the building for you guys to look at and all the different materials that are at play. With the, I want to say Galvalume.
Yeah, basically galvanized metal, Galvalume.
So the Galvalume color to the metal, they're looking to install that with a standing seam roof pattern. Over time, it looks like the building has had from standing seam to a corrugated kind of intermix as kind of maintenance has gone along the way. The choice for the whole re-roof project is to do a standing seam hidden fastener product that would be more traditional for the area. Christine Drabels is here to answer any questions you guys have on the project.
So it's my understanding that all the old wood would be taken off.
So we're sort of doing the project in several phases. We want to stabilize the foundation, and if there's anything that needs to be replaced in kind. We want to fix the heavy timbers. We went through with our structural engineer, there are some timbers that have decayed, show termite damage, things like that. Repair the roof. The siding we would want to remove, check the girts and the structure behind the siding, what we can't access from inside the building, repair it. When we put the siding back on, we do realize there might be some lost, we would replace in kind. And then we want to stain. Generally, our understanding is with a building like this, it would have been painted a standard Spanish brown, Spanish red, which is the Yankee barn that we chose, or it would have been left untreated. The left untreated would be a maintenance issue over the years, so we would prefer to stain it. Before we put the siding back on, what we would like to do is to try to help, I don't want to say weatherproof, but to try to upgrade some of that so the elements and animals and things don't get in, which they've been doing now from the siding. So we would put up sheathing, a weather barrier, insulation, and then put the siding on top of
So
that.
plywood, an exterior sheathing, then visqueen, or then
Yes, and
a vapor, or?
yeah, it depends on, we have
The wrap.
alternates, yes, exactly. We have alternates in the budget, but the full version would be, yes, exterior sheathing, vapor barrier, rigid insulation to help weatherize, weatherproof, keep critters from getting in the building, then reapply the siding. What was lost or damaged during the removal process, we would, like I say, have to replace in kind. We realize that some would be lost or damaged in the process. There is old siding in the building right now from the earlier removal that we can also look at in terms of size as well, because we want to replace in kind.
And this will, I assume this will be all phased, right?
Yes, so the first phase is basically foundations, heavy timber, and then roof. The second phase is exterior siding, and we're also looking at the floors. The floors would have the same issue where we would pull up the floors, check the joists, check the structure underneath the floors, repair any damaged joists or rim boards or anything like that. Then we would have to level the floor. We would want to put down sheathing, probably 3/4, weather barrier, and then put the floor back on and seal it. So the floor would look similar to the way it looks in the finished portion where the office, I guess, currently is in the building.
Christine, for the, so this face on the building, the eastern face, that siding's been replaced. Is the intent to have all the northern side still be replaced with new poplar, or just stain the wood that's on there?
Well, we're gonna have to take it off to repair the substructure or the structure underneath it with the girts, and then to reapply the sheathing and all that. And like I said, the goal is to save as much as possible of what we already have there.
So
If
the
it's in good
biggest,
shape.
so the biggest question, I guess that wasn't what was articulated to me. It was going to be all new poplar on the
Okay.
building. This is the poplar
That is the stain color.
on
and
the poplar.
On the poplar.
What does the stain color look like on the building siding that's there now?
As far as I know, most of the siding there, my understanding is poplar, except for maybe a few rare occasions where it's the older siding. But I know the front and the rear and part of the sides are the poplar.
Okay, I guess the only reason why I'm asking is because when the Historical Society came in 2019 to get approval for the new poplar, they didn't apply for poplar. They applied for walnut or oak.
I'm
I was
not
gonna
sure
say,
what.
I thought it was oak.
They
I'm
applied,
assuming it was oak, because I don't think
they,
it was
they
walnut. I
applied
think
for,
it was
they applied
oak.
for oak. And it was to the commission's surprise that a different wood went on the building. And it was told because it was the only thing available and it was a budget saver.
I don't know about a budget saver, but I know now standard building practice is to use poplar. I don't know if the white oak is no longer available or not. Our contractor on the project is Ryder. They have a history of doing covered bridges for the Department of Transportation and other agencies. And so we've chosen them as the contractor because they have the experience with the heavy timber, the experience with the stone foundation, in their case abutments for bridges, and they have the experience for the sheathing and the roof. And their standard is to use poplar. So we applied the same standard that they use for the state, for DOT, and other historic bridge projects.
So the prior,
To this project.
I guess, so to answer my question, so the prior 2019 approval to reside the building is no longer moving forward. It's to repair as necessary, but retain what's there.
If we can, yes.
Do you have a sample of what the stain looks like on the old wood? Because I specifically asked the other members of the Historical Society for what the stain looks like on the wood that is being stained.
Okay.
And the information I got was all the building is being replaced with wood to match.
Okay.
This is what the stain looks like. Or else I would have asked for two different
Okay.
samples for the commission.
I would have to ask. I feel uncomfortable tearing off the existing siding to find something, but if we have samples in the building, that's something we might be able to accommodate y'all.
I just think it's important because if the stains don't match and they're visibly different, then that might be something that the stains would have to be adjusted or, a blend to have something
Which is
lighter on the old stuff, darker on the new stuff.
Yeah, which is a possibility. The stain, and we've noted in our construction drawings that the stain color would be something that would be evolving based upon what's put on the building. and y'all's input, because usually we try to defer that till later in the project.
Okay, so what's the time frame for this?
Good question. The time frame for the foundation, we already have a permit for that, but we're replacing it in kind and repairing. That will also be heavy timber, and then the roof. The roof they want to do this spring. Now's not a good time to do the roof because of the weather. So they're talking in the spring to the summer before it gets too hot to do the roof. The siding and the flooring would probably be in another 6 months or a year. Is that correct, based on funding?
That's correct, and based on funding.
Based on funding.
And so really, the siding that, this color that we've been presented with tonight is not something we really need to vote on tonight.
It's not set in stone exactly. We're not, that's not happening 6 months
So
from
we could
now.
approve the roof, and you could come back to us with what the siding's going to look like, and we could go from there.
If that is what you all want.
Yeah, I mean,
that
you know,
is-
you're
that
talking
is
6
easy enough.
months to a year before we're even to the point of putting stain on.
Correct, correct.
You know what, if there's a lot of wood that's on it that's not poplar, maybe they could put that, and there's a lot of it, maybe they could put that on another elevation.
And match it up.
You know, like 2 corners or, or opposite sides or something like that. I mean, if you're just looking to save some money, but it's good wood that you don't want to throw away.
Well, that's the point is, if it's good wood, I don't want to throw it away because
Yeah.
it's original building fabric. The building is on the National Register, and the decision has been made to keep it on the National Register.
Do we know if the material that came off the north and south side of the building that's been removed, if it was stored inside the building and kept?
As far as I know, it was stored inside the building. I cannot guarantee all of it was stored inside the building, but there is a large area of siding inside the building which appears to have been from the outside.
Okay, I wish Pete was here because he would know. But
2019 was before my time on the project. Okay.
Okay, let's jump to the windows. I
Okay.
know in the renderings, it looks like all the windows are black framed.
So we're not replacing the windows right now.
Okay.
All right, that would be in another phase, and before we replace the windows, I would want to do more historic research, because right now, my personal opinion is the window light pattern is incorrect. Right now, they're 6/6. I think they were originally something like 2/2. If you look at the old photographs and you look at old examples of head houses and mill buildings. So what we've asked the contractor to do when they replace the siding is to basically locate all where the openings are. There are also openings that look like they were for ventilation windows, like hopper windows on the side of the grain storage elevators, that we are debating if we can find them and put them back, we will.
So you have old photos that show what you said
If
did you say 4/4?
The original, the old 1907 photo, I think they're 4/4. But you can also see the hopper windows that are in the providing ventilation to the grain storage bins. So we're sort of using this along with what we know Midwestern grain elevator architecture looks like to try to replace those windows.
Okay. Do you guys have to meet any deadlines for the state funding or federal funding or whatever it
The
is?
state funding, we won't have a problem meeting a deadline. We
Mhm.
have about $300,000 in grant money. And as you can imagine, with the foundation work and the
Mhm.
roof, I mean, that's going to be more than double that. So
Okay.
we won't have any problem with that. We're going to have another cycle coming up, 2024, they'll award more money. We don't want to wait for this, though. We're constantly
Oh, yeah.
looking for more
Yeah.
ways to get money.
I mean, I think it's important to get the roof on.
Yes, and we could approve that tonight
Yeah.
and
I
come
think
back.
one of the reasons, you correct me if I'm wrong, we're trying to get that approved is because you have to order it.
Mhm.
We have a lot
Okay.
of wait time, and we are hoping that, I think they were thinking early spring, because we have some events scheduled there in May, and I was told at that time, they're hoping maybe even by May,
To have had completed it.
to have had completed.
Yeah, now there's no guarantee. A lot of it is weather dependent, and unfortunately nowadays, as some of y'all know, supply chain issue dependent as well. But that is the goal.
But that will take up the current grant money we have with the state.
Was one of the requests tonight to approve Poplar?
So
That's
when,
not-
when the packet was being put together, the siding that got approved in 2019 that was installed was Poplar. So when I was given like a digital sample of the stain, and I requested for the stain to be applied on the wood that is going to be stained, and a sample of the new Poplar was stained. It was the first
Okay.
time this evening hearing that any of the wood would be salvaged, which I think's great, but does it match? And so that was my question, because if I knew that, I would have brought that up before the submittal, so.
That is fine, but that is valid. As I said earlier, the property is on the National Register right now. Our group wants to keep the property on the National Register. By doing so, we hope that we will get more available grant money from various agencies, because it is a cultural heritage site and on the National Register. So that's why our goal is to replace in kind the original building material as much as possible. So I would rather not remove the historic material unless it is damaged and cannot be. We've also worked hard with the engineer to make sure that any foundation repairs that are visible on the exterior need to be the sandstone. I do believe some of the interior footings where you can't see them, they prefer to use modern concrete because it's tested and meets modern building code. But same thing with any of the heavy timber repairs. If we can splice and attach new to old, we will do that. If that's not possible, we will have to replace with new. And again, we're working with the Ryder Company, who is the selected contractor who has experience doing this sort of thing. We chose them specifically because they work on historic heavy timber frame structures.
But before it's all said and done, all the siding will be removed
It will be removed.
to put sheathing
That's the
on
goal.
the subframe, the wrap.
Exactly.
Okay.
And insulation. So that is part of our construction drawings that basically we have it all in one package, even though it's going to be broken down into two phases. The first phase is the foundation, heavy timber and roof. That's the sort of the first stage of stabilization. The second phase of stabilization would be the siding and the flooring. If we
Okay.
could do it all now, we would. Money is the issue, I'll be honest. So take that what you will, but our package that's going to the building department has all of what we want to do, including the roof, where we, again, we're removing the existing roof. We have to check the purlins and the sheathing and things like that. Those will be repaired, replaced if they have to be. Then the goal is to put on, wrap, insulation, and then the new standing seam roof. As Andrew said, we prefer the standing seam would be more historically accurate as opposed to just corrugated metal, and will provide a better roof system. The color is your standard unpainted DMI. I think there they call it acryl, I can't pronounce it, but it's basically galvanized
Whatever
aluminum
that's-
with a coat on it.
Right, right.
A sealant type thing.
Will you have to put roofing anchors on the building for the contractors to work as they, I'm just thinking this is 60 feet tall. Those eye bolts, I'm talking about that they, as a
Yeah.
part of the finished material.
I would have to you know.
You
prefer-
probably couldn't see them from at grade, but
Yeah. I'm probably,
I figured you'd want to know that if you're, talking about historic preservation, you're putting, eyelets onto the roof every 20 feet so the roofer doesn't fall off.
and then they'll have to be removed, and then.
And then how do you remove it without the roofer on there? So that's just a
Yeah,
question for you.
Yes, I was gonna say, that's a ways and means for the contractor, because we are very interested in his scaffolding and how he's going to provide support, but that is part of the construction documents in the agreement of temporary support and
You know what I'm talking about,
scaffolding.
Dave?
Oh, yeah.
For commercial construction,
Right.
there's eyelets that you are rappelling off the building basically with.
Mhm.
Well, is there any, like, I know with the metal roofs, there's code for like so the ice doesn't come flying off, does that kind of
Yeah,
stuff
I
have to be
thought
on
about
something
that.
that's
They're
not?
called
Yeah,
ice
so that is,
stoves.
so we will have the,
Ice guards?
I think they're called ice dogs.
they're called ice guards, yeah, or I call them snow guards or something like that. That is a very good question. They are not on the roof now. They were probably not historically on the roof because it's an agricultural outbuilding, and I don't think, 100 years ago, that was a concern. Nowadays, it is a concern. That is something that we would have to discuss with Michael Barica. Of anything that relates to life safety, we have to defer to him. It's a historic building. We want to keep it historic, but it also has to be safe.
Exactly.
Well, I'm sure these buildings have been redone before. I just wonder,
There's not that many wood frame
Mhm.
grain elevators left. is
I mean,
my
whether it's Mike or
understanding.
whether it's wherever you get your funding from, like, what do they allow and what won't they allow?
It's probably both.
Yeah,
I mean, it's probably both.
okay.
But I can double check.
Was the roof ever a mill finish color like this, or was it always dark?
So my understanding that is historically speaking, the roof just would have been left that natural color. They wouldn't have bothered painting it, as opposed to a residential roof where you might have the finish colors of like a brick red or a green or something like that. But that this is basically an industrial agricultural building.
It's close to the color of the roof now.
Okay.
This
For some reason in my
photograph,
mind, I was thinking it was like that.
this photograph here, the building's 60, 70 years old, but you can see some highlights in some of these like newer areas. It's a very valid question, and it was one that I was actually asked to, and it was really to look at, this building was older than this one across the street. This one clearly had a bright, galvanized tin roof on it. Was this a galvanized tin that was tarred or something to make it more weathered? It's hard to say, but,
And this is just my instinct as a former architectural historian, is they probably didn't do anything to the roof and it just,
rusted.
thank you.
I said weathered.
You know what?
I mean, that, the building, if any of y'all have ever been in it, it's very strictly utilitarian. It's not like there's any real stairs. There's maybe one stair. There's a lot of ladders, a lot of catwalks. It was in an agricultural industrial building. The equipment was what was valuable. The shell of the building, maybe the grain bins are well constructed, where they stored the grain. So, and if you look at this picture, we think, the windows were at the top of the building is the head house. That's where the grain would go up to the very top. And then there's a distribution center that would have had chutes that put it into, I think there's approximately 6 grain storage bins. So that's why you have that taller portion of the head
So the
house.
tallest portion of the mill,
Uh-huh.
do you know what that's going to be purposed as?
Right
Gathering
now,
space?
it's just going to be that the bottom would be event space for the Historical Society and the community, and then there could be walking tours where you could go up there and take a
Okay,
look.
I mean, I'm just thinking, what if it turned into a space that required,
I can send you guys,
Insulation.
the preliminary plans that the Historical Society presented to staff. last week after this meeting, that you kind of look at what the future is. I do think Roger had a good point though this evening. It seems like the roof is the only thing that needs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we've got a request for stained wood siding, new metal roof.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve the roof portion of this?
I make a motion
Application.
on CA 22043 that we approve the new metal roof with the color being the acrylamide.
I second.
Roll call, Whitmore, no?
Yes.
Roy Cox?
Yes.
Roger White?
Yes.
Rich Dodd, yes. Dave Kirkhope?
Yes.
And just to confirm for the minutes, tabling the siding discussion?
Correct. Do we need to make a motion for that?
No.
Okay.
Just as long as I can hear my voice in all of eternity saying that.
You know, overall, I think it's going to look really nice.
It's going to look nice.
This will be sharp.
Going back to table applications, I do not.
Thank you.
I do
Okay,
not
if you don't need any
see,
more, I have all sorts of material.
Sure won't be bad.
Yeah, look forward to seeing it come together.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Going back to the tabled application this evening, I do not see the applicant's architect here or the contractor here this evening to discuss with you guys the changes on the project. I will quickly kind of go over them and just let you know what has changed since you guys have seen this in October. That way you guys have an idea of what the update is so far on this project. As a whole, the project for what they plan on using the interior of the space for has changed, to my understanding. They are no longer seeking to outfit a full retail restaurant kitchen in the facility. So that has prompted some changes to the exterior elements, including physical space the kitchen would take up, some of the uses they'd want to have with it. So with that, that's really what has prompted the discussion this evening. The dumpster enclosure on the southwest corner of the building, still in the same location, same design. When you look at the north elevation of the building here, the retail entry storefront is still the same as before. The commission had asked how the railing was to be mounted to that front elevated dock area. The applicant has chosen to have it face mounted on the front of the dock with new brackets that'll be welded to the steel that bolted to the dock. Looking at the east side of the building, since the kitchen has been removed, the applicant has removed the patio component, removed the louvered window areas, has removed the brick inset and single man door into that space, and is looking to do a tube-light storefront entry that matches the north just with double doors. Same kind of profile setback. And then they're still showing the same paint deviation with the imitation mortar joint, expansion joint shown here. South elevation, no changes are being proposed with this revision to the building. Previously, this is where the pickup window is located, with the kitchen being removed from the scope. Pickup window is no longer being requested. And then the west elevation, the applicant has provided some information on what the new insulated doors would look like. They are replacing them, and at one point you guys were asking if they were just painting what was there, but they are planning to replace them to upgrade some of the energy efficiency of the building to meet building code. Lighting is the same as last discussed, with the two wall packs in the north and south with the decorative lighting primarily around it. If you guys want to talk about it, have any questions, let me know. Again, I apologize. I thought I told the applicant to be here this evening to kind of go over the changes with you.
So they are planning on a handicap ramp to the
They are still planning on the handicap ramp on the north, yes.
So in this application, we have the dumpster enclosure. That's one of them, right? And then the storefront on the east elevation.
Is there any issue with the handicap ramp in terms of setbacks or anything of that nature?
If you look here at this site plan, the handicap ramp is actually set back fairly far away from Towing Path Alley. It doesn't project any closer to the western alley than the building. Setbacks in this case are not really regulated for ramps because we do not regulate ADA accessibility to public spaces or private spaces. We would just make sure it's done in a way that's safe and doesn't intrude on the public right of way, which in this case it does not.
When I ask that, the reason I ask is when you look at the drawing of the north elevation, it looks like it extends out quite a bit further than the building does in the drawing.
Yeah, if you look, and it's kind of hard to see, Roger, because the paint color's the same, but see where my mouse is circling?
Yes?
So this is like a boiler room that is
On the alley side.
on the alley side, and that's this projection here.
Oh, okay.
Can't see it.
So it does extend past the primary face, but not past the furthest kind of point of the building.
Okay. Then I also see the railing mounting detail,
Yes.
and I like that better than surface mounted.
And they did note that the dock leveler parts will be removed, and they will weld a steel pan to the frame and then fill the void with concrete.
Okay.
I know that was a discussion last time with that being right outside the storefront door, immediately outside of it.
I'm just going through all the items in this application. Now, is this a new one, the plans under east elevation about the primary signage being 24 inches tall by 33 feet long?
Yeah, so the applicant, after hearing that you guys want to see signage details on exactly what's going on, they are deferring all signage to a future submittal from
Okay,
a
I just
sign
read that.
company.
Okay.
What they wanted to do was still show a scale to the main building sign. Knowing this building's really long, I advised that they needed to at least explain how tall the character height was and how wide the sign is itself, because it's very, I mean, it's very big. But it, you know, just showing that they try to scale it to the size of the facility. So that was the intent behind it. If the signage is not appropriately scaled, that's something, you know, I guess you can let the applicant know and they can look at amending it when they submit a signed package to you guys. But the signage is not being requested for any approvals.
Okay. You guys have any other comments? Even though they're not here, we can make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve certificate CA-22-037, update number 2.
I'll second.
Roll call, Jim Wilcox,
Yes.
Roger White,
Yes.
Whit Wardell,
Yes.
Rich Dobley, yes, Dave Kirka.
Yes.
In terms of old and new business, kind of talked about it a little bit last month, but this is Jamoy's last meeting here with the commission. He is on to see if the grass is greener on the other side with new ventures, so He has decided to let the appointment renewal go to somebody else that would like to serve on the commission. So I just want to thank Jamoya for all of his dedicated service here. I don't think you've missed too many meetings. You know, actually, you guys as a whole, you hardly ever miss meetings, which is incredible for a volunteer board. So I just wanted to thank Jamoya, but I guess all of you to that effect. Jamoya, I'm gonna try to do a quick kind of summary of all the different applications you've looked at, and I'll just send it to you, just to kind of give you some, you know, idea of the involvement you've had to
Absolutely.
put on a resume or something, you know, if you need to. And in the audience this evening is Linda Boving. She is taking over Jamoya's seat starting in January. It was her idea to attend a Landmarks meeting and see kind of how it goes before her first meeting, which is unheard of. So wanted to introduce her to you guys now.
Gives her an opportunity to quit.
You have the opportunity to say hi and introduce yourselves after this meeting. I'm sure she will love that, and hopefully she's not scared from tonight's discussion. I thought it was a pretty good meeting for her to sit in on, just to have an idea of a big corporation application versus a private resident, and kind of how you guys address both verbally, and you know, kind of your votes were, I think, helpful, to say the least. Other than that, I know you guys are excited to get home this evening.
Hey, Andrew, I got one thing.
Christmas.
I passed out this 8.5 by 11.
Oh, thank you.
This is a project that we approved last year, maybe even the year before. And there's a change, and this is the 121 West Columbus Street. It's right across the street from my house. And the south elevation, we originally were going to take out the double door system from the dining room and put it in the master bedroom. But when they did that, they just found out that it just wasn't the structural integrity of it was just down. You know, some of the glass windows were starting to leak. So anyway, we're going to go with 3 windows to fit that opening. The three windows to match the window on the south elevation over there in the corner. So I just wanted to bring that up to you. Is that something we have to?
I mean, I think as long as the commission has some discussion over that's appropriate in the audio, then I can.
So these 3 windows do not exist currently?
Yes, they do.
Oh, okay.
The only 3 windows I'm talking about are
Oh,
these
okay.
3 windows.
Okay, I got it.
These 3 windows here versus the door system.
Okay.
That's the only thing.
Yeah. That's fine.
Okay. And I've got one more thing. And this will be quick for next month's meeting. I mean, I was hoping if everybody was here, you know, just to talk about this past year and things we've learned, things we might do over again.
Yeah.
You know, just a learning experience. Because there's some things I look back and thinking, I wouldn't have done that.
Why don't,
You know?
after, so the January meetings, when you guys appoint who's gonna be the chair, vice chair, and secretary for the committee, since now we have a room, you can actually go do that in, and not like the hallway of town hall.
Work.
When you guys go adjourn, you like to do it at the end of the meeting, right? Though you're not like.
No, I think we do it at
thing.
the
I think we
beginning
do
of
it
the
at the
meeting.
beginning.
Beginning, yeah,
Okay,
beginning.
at the end of the meeting, you guys, you know, want to stick around for a couple minutes and just kind of, we can go over that stuff. I think that is something we can do as like a little bit of a work session thing. Where it's not part of it's not necessary to be part of the public record, because it's a work session to talk about improvement of the board.
So we
and
could
since
do
you guys
shades
aren't
and do it.
Since you guys aren't voting on anything, you'll have the opportunity to just have an open discussion of the Landmarks Commission as a whole. I'd be happy to just help facilitate that.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at
8:04.
8:04.
I'll second. Roll call, Dave Craycraft.
Yes.
Rich Dowdy, yes. Roger White.
Yes,
Jamoy Cox.
Yes.
Whit Wardell.
Yes.
thank you, Jamoya.
Thanks, Jamoy.
Thanks, Maureen. Good job, man.